Folks, we are back for good. Another season of the Inquisition. We've had a wee bit of a break over the summer, and as you've seen in the story, Casey went and got his hair done. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Casey's hair is like since he had his hair transplant because he was thinning at the back. So he needed to nip over to Turkey and get some turkey hair. Don't know if he got himself some turkey teeth, but he definitely got some turkey hair, and he's not cut it since he's came back from Turkey, so his hair's going to be a bit all over the place, but he said to me that's how his hair's supposed to look because it's turkey hair. So we'll soon see what the crack is with Casey, if he's on time, and he is on time. He's actually a minute late, but for Casey, that is on time. So if you had Casey would be late between 0 and 5 minutes, mark it off on your bingo card and take yesterday off. Alright, Green Mank, how you doing? Now, we've had a bit of back and forth with the guest today. He's had some flash flooding and some electricity problems, and it appears he's just come in now. So wait, and I'll just send you all requests. So yeah, can't wait to see it, man. Can't wait to see it. So you're supposed to send invites, so just yeah. Look at that turkey
Look
here.
at that. That is au natural, bruv.
That is not here, natural from Turkey. So James, you should have got an invite in the bottom of your screen. There should be two where I saying plus. If you click on there, you should be able to join us live. So I've sent you an invite. Mate, how was Turkey?
I'm not even responding to that.
Was it everything you wanted and more?
I actually do know a guy who's had a turkey trip before that. I don't. You know what? If I was starting to go bald, I would just shave my head and just go bald. I don't think I would actually bother with a transplant because it's just natural. Your hair falls out. It's meant to fall out. That's what happens in life.
That's what happened to me, mate. I went old with style and grace. But unfortunately, you decided to go down the Turkey route. But
This is not. You know what this is?
The more you're denying it, the more people are
actually. You know what I can say. This is. It's not Turkey. It's superstition. It is pure superstition because before May, I cut my hair before May, and then since then, Palace have won 3 times at Wembley. So the longer I don't cut my hair, the more likely we are to win stuff.
Yeah, but if you dial that back even further, since your wee fella's been going to Wembley, he hasn't lost a final.
Yeah, I know. So it's either either, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's more to do with him.
Probably.
Mr. Spooner, see at the bottom of your screen, right? You can't do it in your PC, man. You need to do it in your tablet or your phone, because PC doesn't work by going live, to be honest with you. It just doesn't do it. I think I should have said that to you, but you can't do it in your PC, man. You need to do it in your tablet or your phone, because Instagram doesn't like PCs.
And it's not an episode of the Inquisition without technical issues. So welcome back. Yes, we are back. We are on form straight away. We bloody love it.
We might as well plug them. As you can see, my beard is slightly orange. So we are sponsored by Orangebrushes, like this talks. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Jump in Inquisition at the checkout, capital letters. You get not 9% off, but you get 10% off. And if you live in the UK, free shipping.
Absolutely free. Gratis.
Why is it though, right, that when you send something by road, it's called shipment, right? But when you send it by sea, it's called freight. Why would that not be a shipment?
I've heard that before. And there was a I can't remember.
You fly something with air, it's cargo. Why
yes, because cargo broom.
So for those that are a wee bit late, this is Inquisition. It's just madness, and we've got a new improved turkey hair penge this week.
Turkey hair, bruv. Like, I can afford turkey. Like I tell you what, this is probably more backstreet than turkey. This is more like Wuhan hair.
I'm sideways. Why am I sideways?
Tell you.
What is going on?
Welcome to the internet.
Yeah, welcome to the world of computers. Give me a second.
Yeah, that's it. Our guests don't come here for the interviews or questions. They come here for the madness. So don't worry. You looking on sideways? That's it.
Unbelievable. I did everything right, but clearly everything wrong at the same time. Right.
Don't worry about it. We've had other people think that they can do it on the PC, and Instagram just doesn't like PCs, so you can't go live on PC for some weird reason.
Right now, I can only see one of you anyway.
It's fine.
What one can you see? That's the most important one. Is it Casey?
Is it the bald one or the hairy one?
The fellow hairy. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if you heard us at the start. Casey we had a break there for about a month. Because Casey was getting a bit paranoid with the bald patch at the back of his head. So he went to Turkey and got his hair transplant done. So
there's nothing wrong with the back of my head.
Looks fine from here. Although, I mean, I've got a surplus. Although it does seem to be travelling this way. It's gradually disappearing down the back of my neck. But
that's what I said. I didn't go to Turkey for a hair transplant. I went to Turkey to donate hair. Complete side business.
Yeah, well, that's always an option for me as a career later in life. I can do that.
I just want to say thanks very much for coming on tonight. Like, I've been trying to get you on for a wee while now because, like, with your recent book with Fildrim, which was brilliant, and all your stuff that you've done before, Lego and the Muppets and all that. Like, can you just tell us a wee bit about your history and how you get involved in like everything that you did? What was the dream when you were younger?
I mean, it's such a convoluted story that just like it. I was born in 71, so I was kind of like prime position for like Muppets, Star Wars, Doctor Who, Star Trek, although it was mostly reruns. BBC Two seemed to have it on reruns all the time. And because there were only 3 TV channels when I was growing up, there wasn't really anything else to watch. So that you kind of just, I was not force fed this stuff because I loved it, but it was what was on. I mean, other shows like Monkey, The Water Margin, that kind of sideways got me into martial arts movies and that kind of stuff as well. So that stuff was kind of always there in the background. But also at the beginning, when I was a little bit younger, my parents didn't actually have a TV in the house for a while. So until I was about, the screen's gone off and I've gone very red. There we go. So I probably didn't have a TV until I was about 10 or 11, something like that. So a majority of the stuff that I ingested, other than, and I did go to the cinema and stuff, was through radio. And that got me into listening to radio. And just that love of audio as a media form as well, which is kind of fed into why I'm doing voiceovers and audiobooks and stuff now. So anyway, yeah, growing up in the 70s, loving all of that stuff. But growing up in a kind of small village in the middle of nowhere in the Kent countryside, not really knowing anything about fanzines or anything like that, not really having any connection with the outside world. It was just like this miracle thing that happened on the TV, and how did you get into that? And it wasn't really until I was probably in my early teens, and I suddenly realized, people can kind of like do this for a living. I think I'd started buying copies of things like Starlog and Starburst and things like that, and they had and loads of photographs of people working behind the scenes and stuff. And I was like, okay, people do this, but how do you get into that? And my initial idea was I was going to be a cameraman, and this would have been kind of mid-80s. And I thought, right, I'll do an apprenticeship. I'll get an apprenticeship at the BBC, and I'll be a film cameraman. The only problem with that was you needed O-level maths and physics, and that wasn't going to happen in any way, shape, or form, because that is not the way my brain works. So I done a bit of amateur dramatics and a bit of drama and stuff like that, and people said you're pretty good at that. So I thought, well, there's a way in. So I went to college and I studied drama for 3 years. I then took a year out and then went to drama school. And I was at drama school for 3 years, and I got to the end of it and I realized I loved performing, but I hated being in front of people, which is a bit of a problem. Yeah. So what do you do? Well, I got hold of the address for the Jim Henson Creature Shop. The Jim Henson Company used to have a creature shop in Camden. And I can't remember where I got the address from, but I just thought, I'll write them a letter. What's the worst that could happen? So I just wrote stupid teenagery letter. I think the Muppets are great. I would love to be a puppeteer. Can I come and work for you, please? But what I didn't know, and this is the thing where kind of persistence and luck kind of come together, was at that point they were prepping to do Muppet Treasure Island, and they were just still working on the script. But a lot of the people that they worked with through and up to Muppet Christmas Carol, I think, were kind of, a lot of the puppeteers that they'd used were big in their own right. They had their own companies. They weren't sure who was available. So they decided just to do some open auditions. So I just wrote at the right time. And I got this letter back saying, would you like to come along for an open audition? Well, let me think about that. Yeah, okay. So I went along for the open audition, and it was this old warehouse in Camden, and I've been back there recently. Actually, it's of course it is now. It's like Premier Housing and flash flats and stuff. And the building is called the Henson, just I suppose as a nod to the history. So I went there and I did the first audition, and it was just crowds and crowds of people. And literally, the first audition was they would just stand you in a line, get you to hold your hand up, and get you to count to 10. And then they would cull people and throw people out. And it wasn't until quite some time later that I realised what would happen was that what they were looking for was when people put 2 syllables on 7. If people went through and went 5, 6, 7, you got the boot. If you went 5, 6, 7, they went, okay, there's a link between the brain and what's coming out of the mouth. We'll keep them and we'll see if we can train them up. So I got through, much to my surprise. And then we kind of did a weird 2-week Muppet boot camp. There was about 20 of us, and at the end of each day they would read off a list of names as to who had got through to the next day. And at the end of the first week, I'd somehow managed to survive, and I got through to the final week, and I think there was probably about 9 or 10 of us in that final week. And in that final week, it was less about the technique and how to work the puppets. It was more about learning how to improvise and doing skits and working really hard, because Henson was always really performance based. All the puppeteers did the voices. They never dubbed stuff. I think they did in Dark Crystal, but every other Muppet movie, the performers voiced the characters. And I got through that, and that essentially started my journey, because I finished doing that just before I graduated from drama school. I basically took 2 weeks off, told them I was ill, and I pretty much started working right out the gate. I mean, tiny stuff in commercials and TV shows. If somebody got ill and they needed a right arm on something, then I would get called in. But then a year later, I was doing my first job out of drama school, which was a theatre and education tour of Romeo and Juliet in North Wales. And it's as grim as it sounds, because it was like January, February, and you're in these cold school halls trying to teach kids Shakespeare at 8 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't much fun. And I got a phone call just as that finished saying, can you be at Shepperton Studios on Monday for a day? And I was like, yes, absolutely. I finished the Romeo and Juliet thing on the Friday. I drove back down south. I was there at Shepperton on Monday morning. And at the end of that first day, they invited us back for another day. And we ended up there for about a week. And in that first week, we shot all of the stuff with Kermit arriving to the boat at the port. Big scene, lots of puppets, all kinds of things going on. And at the end of that week, I was really only supposed to be there for a week. I was leaving, and I was thinking, this is brilliant. This has been the best experience of my life. And this guy who was the production manager, Pete, came up to me and said, Andrew, can I have a word? And me being me, I was like, oh, I've done something wrong. I'm totally getting fired, or I've done something, whatever. But he basically said, how do you feel about, maybe 9 or 10 weeks of work? Yes. Yeah. So I was pretty much there for, I think in the end, it turned out to be 4 or 5 months. I was working on that, and that was kind of where I learned everything in terms of my puppetry career. And it was fantastic, and there's loads of stories. And when it finished, because I had that on my CV, it was just exponentially easier to get puppet work, because you've got the Muppets on your CV. So I got a bit of work at Spitting Image. I got other TV shows, and really I had a good career for a while doing that. I would say, almost 10 years, really.
And what was it like?
And then,
sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
right?
sorry, I will just talk. You just have to.
We love. Honestly,
we
we
love
love
that.
that.
But you've been through like so many like things I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
Like, so I just want to go back to when you were younger a wee bit.
Hmm.
Because like I was born in 1979, so I missed like when Star Wars first came out. But what was that like as a child going to see Star Wars for the first time and The Empire Strikes Back in the cinema? Did you get to see that in the cinema? And what was
Yeah,
that like?
no, of course. I mean, the thing that I think people don't realize now, I mean, although you can look it up, I'm sure, is that there was a massive time difference between when Star Wars was on in the States and when it came to England. I think it was almost a year before
Yeah.
it arrived in England. It was certainly 6 months. And so, but even before that, there'd been a lot of publicity for it in magazines and stuff. So we'd been hyped up for about a year before this movie came out with magazines and comics and all kinds of things. So when it finally did arrive, we were just like, we were jonesing for it. We were just like, and I saw it about, I must have seen it 6 or 7 times. I must have pestered my parents. And it was, realistically, it was everything that people say. It was unlike anything any of us had ever really seen. There was very few people, I think, at that point had VHS. I think it probably was around, but it was quite expensive. So you were at the mercy of the TV schedulers. So I was watching Star Trek Doctor Who, which to me was impressive enough. But, just that opening shot of the Star Destroyer and the blockade runner at the beginning of Star Wars was, okay, this movie's great. I don't care if I don't like the rest of it. I'm on board. And the interesting thing is, funny enough, I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day, is when Empire Strikes Back came out, in 82, something like that, 81, 82. Initially, and I don't know if anybody really talks about this anymore, some of the early screenings were a bit muted. The audience wasn't fully on board, and it was because, realistically, you've only got the first Star Wars movie to go on. You're expecting something kind of similar, maybe in the second one. It's a sequel, but what you get is a much darker, a much slower, a much more character driven piece, which doesn't really have an end, and the end that it does have is kind of downbeat. And I think it took audiences a while to warm up to that, because maybe they were expecting, although there were fewer sequels at that point in history, they were expecting something that was a bit more like the original, and they did.
I
They
think that
kind of
was down
got
to
that in Jedi.
I think that was down to Irwin Cashner. I think he wanted it to be dark and like to show that the
Yeah.
Empire, like the baddies who all had
Wasn't
linguistic accents, will
if
hit you back.
if I remember rightly on that as well, just spitballing, I might be a bit out, but Lucas was going through a bit of a dark period around then as well, because like I think he was going through a divorce or something,
Yeah,
because that took a turn. And then Temple of Doom, you watch that back, that is a horrible film. Like you got people getting their hearts ripped out of their chest, kids working in mines, and it's grim as hell. It is horrible, but I think that's a lot of it was also down to that, wasn't it?
yeah, no, you can't say that art doesn't imitate life.
Yeah,
I
I know
really
that
like
he.
Temple of Doom. I've got no problem with it. It's actually my second favourite one. I have huge issues with Last Crusade, but that's another conversation.
Listen, the only issue that I have with the Last Crusade is that Indiana Jones went in after his dad. Because the line with the German blade where it goes, she's a Nazi. And he goes, how do you know that? She speaks in her sleep. It's like, dude, you just slept with the same person that slept with your son or your dad.
Similar bros with your dad.
That
I
is
know.
pretty grim, isn't it?
Uh,
I don't think there's something a bit too light and fluffy with The Last Crusade for me. It lacks something. I can't quite figure it. It doesn't look great either. Some of the effects have aged quite badly, I think, over the years compared to the first two. But so as far as I'm concerned, there's two. There's the first two. We'll let the third one in. No others.
Let's
yeah.
jump you back on track then. Obviously,
Yeah.
you're going through your career here, which I'll be honest, for someone as well, like as a kid growing up, I bloody loved them. It's Christmas Carol, Great Muppet Caper, Treasure Island were like brilliant films for me as a kid, and even silly little things like you're mentioning the Doctor Who stuff. I'll be honest, personally, Doctor Who isn't for me, but my girlfriend's a massive fan of it. I actually have a mate who was a director on one of the recent episodes of the
Oh,
TV
wow.
series,
Okay.
the Eurovision one. So he's worked on it, and it's crazy
Fantastic.
like how weirdly interlinked this all is. But I think what amazes me most is, and this is something that I think all kids want to aspire to getting into doing the stuff they love. How does that feel? That, you know, growing up, you're watching all of this stuff, you're engaging in all of this stuff, and then as a young adult, you're working on all of this stuff, you're doing with all this stuff. You know, you're involved in, you know, all this stuff that kids really aspire to. You know, it's got to be an amazing thing.
It's an amazing thing in hindsight. I think when you're actually doing it, certainly when I first started and I was doing things like Muppet Treasure Island, you're so terrified you're going to do the wrong thing that you're going to get kicked out, that really you're absolutely super hyper focused on doing the best job that you can. And it's a weird thing, because I look back on when I'm having, you know, a rubbish day, I'll look back and go, look, 12-year-old you would be amazed at the kind of stuff that you've managed to wiggle your way into. And I have to kind of pause sometimes and kind of just pinch myself and go, yeah, I did do that. And I have achieved something almost. But I never really think about it when I'm doing it, because I'm so focused on the job at hand and trying to do the best job that I can do. The pinch me moment always comes afterwards, which is a bit sad almost, because it means it's gone. Yeah. But there are moments when you sit on a set, or you're even doing voiceovers or audio dramas, you're standing across from a particular actor. Like, there was an actor I was working with recently, and I honestly can't remember his name, and this is really awful, but I'm ADHD, dyslexic, my brain just doesn't work that way. And I was doing a Doctor Who audio, and I was staring at him and going, I know you. Where have I seen you? I know you. And I couldn't figure it out. We had a great day, and it was a wonderful thing. And I got in the car to drive home, and I realised you were the guy that played Dr. Watson in Young Sherlock Holmes. I've just put it together, because obviously we've all aged. And I love that movie. I know it's kind of a niche movie, but I love that movie. I was kind of kicking myself because I didn't get to chat with him. There are moments. I did a War Master audio for Big Finish, and I got to work with Derek Jacobi. And Derek Jacobi is an actor that has just been around forever. And I certainly admired when, I, Claudius, and he turned up in the recent Gladiator movie again, because he was in the first one. And that was never going to happen in any other aspect of my career, but suddenly there I am, and I'm having a chat with him. Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing, and there are moments when I realise just how lucky I am. Yeah. But it is just persistence. It's being persistent enough that when the luck kicks in and it does, you're there to take advantage of it. And that's something that I say to people. I do get a lot of, obviously emails from people going, I'd like to be in video games, I'd like to be a puppeteer. Like, how do you do it? And I kind of tell them that there's no real one way. This is how I did it. But I would say persistence will put you in a position where when the luck strikes, you'll be there for it and you'll know what to do.
See, when you were doing your puppeteering, how hard is it to keep your body in that position? Is it a different level of fitness? And how sore is it? Do you have to stretch a lot so you don't cramp up? And is it long takes?
Yeah. I mean, I do less now. To be fair, there's less puppetry around, if I'm honest. There is little bits here and there. I tend to pick and choose it when I can. How is this going to be a heavy puppet? Is it going to be an animatronic? If it's an animatronic, if it's remote control, that's fine. I can sit in the chair and have a coffee. I'll be fine. But if it's a Muppet style puppet or something like that, then you do have to take into account the kind of physical toll it's going to have on you. And I'm 54 now, and my legs aren't quite as flexible as they used to be. There was a puppeteer that I knew really well during the 90s and the early noughties, and the last time I saw him, when we were working on something, this would have been the early noughties, I noticed that when he walked away, his whole body was kind of like slumped like this, and it was because he'd spent his whole career like this, trying to get his head out of the shot. And I bumped into him probably about 6 months ago, and he's got perfect posture now. And he's like, I suddenly looked in the mirror one day and realised. So I've been seeing a physiotherapist and a chiropractor and everything. So it does take a toll. I very nearly worked on Walking with Dinosaurs. But one of the things I was kind of clear on that I couldn't do it in the end was I wanted to work on the animatronic team, because there is a lot of physical stuff involved, and I just can't do it now. with the best will in the world. I'd love to have been able to, but I can't. Yeah, the people have fallen off sets. I've grazed parts of my body. I've fallen off sets, and there's all kinds of accidents. I got trapped under a set once at lunchtime, and it's a constant story you hear that you get put under the set for something, and then somebody calls lunch, and they forgot that they've put you there. So unless you yell, don't come and move the tables out the way so you can get out. I do miss it.
Is there still a lot of like Muppet style puppets, or is it mostly animatronics now?
It's interesting. I think again it depends on how you're going to use it. I think Muppet style puppetry is probably a little bit of it prevalent in like kids TV. Because it's a really effective way. It's a really effective way of bringing characters to life. And also what I like about puppetry, and what a lot of people like about puppetry, is you can improvise and you can muck about in a way that you can't do with CGI or even 2D animation. So if you've got a presenter and a puppeteer, or a character and a puppet, they can play off each other, which is another reason that, as I said at the beginning, Henson's like the puppeteers to kind of train in improv and stuff like that, so that they can give as good as they take. And you don't get that with CG. There was a brief resurgence of kind of animatronic stuff because of The Force Awakens and stuff like that. I don't really know how much that's carried through into the rest of the industry. There's an A24 picture out at the moment called The Legend of Ochi.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah, I know that's I know a little bit about the behind the scenes of that, so I know some of the people on it, and there was a lot of Rod puppetry and animatronics in that. But again, not knowing much of what's finally come out, it could all have been replaced. Do you know what I mean? There's all kinds of horror stories about when I was working at the Creature Shop. They used to have a thing called being blorped. Blorp was a character in Lost in Space. They did a big movie version of Lost in Space, and there was this like little cute alien character called Blorp, and they had built a beautiful puppet and worked on set with the actors for however many months. And then I think something like 4 or 5 months before the film was released, they decided to redesign the puppet, the creature, to make it look cuter, I guess for sales of toys or something. So they had to replace the whole thing with a CGI character, very, very early CG. Doesn't look great. So that kind of became the nomenclature. It's like you've been blorped. In other words, you've spent months and months and months on set working with a puppet just for it to be replaced in post-production. I think there was a story, wasn't there, with the Thing prequel in 2011.
Yes.
I'm a nerd. I know these things. They've done all kinds of really great practical stuff just for it to be replaced without them knowing.
Yeah.
Until they went to the premiere, and you're just like, well, what? I don't commit to it or don't commit to it. Have you heard the story about Werner Herzog and Grogu in The Mandalorian?
It rings a bell. It must be something I've read before, and it's escaped me now. But I do remember hearing something.
It's a brilliant story. I don't know if it's true, but apparently there was because he was playing one of the minor villains in the first season. Grogu was untested. They weren't sure that the audience were going to buy a puppet, and blah blah blah. And apparently Favreau and some of the other producers were kind of standing around the puppet in his little trailer thing and just going, will it work, won't it work? And apparently Herzog just came up and went, don't be cowards, use the puppet. And you're just like, it's fantastic. And it worked. It worked. It looked really
Can you
good.
do your Werner Herzog impression again? Because I think that's spot on.
I've been listening to his audiobook. Don't be cowards. Everyone is going to die. Nature will kill us all. I love puppets. I think there's a lot to be said, but they are complicated. Things can go wrong.
Yeah.
So I understand the need for CG, and some of it can be great. I just saw the latest Jurassic Park and looks great. Looks great. So you're like, yeah, okay, no puppets, fair enough.
Yeah, it was all right. I enjoyed the film. It was dinosaurs,
Fine.
wasn't it, really?
It's a Jurassic Park film. It's hard to get them wrong. Come on.
Yeah, I mean it's fine.
Dinosaurs go bad.
Yeah, that was fine. But can I just say, shout back to BBC Two, because BBC Two used to show some absolute banging shows back in the day. It's like that's where we first got introduced to like X Files, and I think it was at a Tuesday, French Prince of Bel Air would be on at 6,
Yep.
and then you switch over to Channel 4 for Games Master. Oh, BBC Two was the best channel for a long time.
It really was. I mean, the water margin was great. That was never really particularly my thing. I loved Monkey. If you know that show, he's the spirit, monkey spirit, flies on a cloud. They're taking scrolls to, and actually, last year or the year before, I got the privilege to be in a game based on it called Black Myth Wukong.
Yes, I remember the trailers for that. Yeah,
I didn't know what it was when I walked in, and they showed me some of the previs stuff and animatics, and I was just like, wait a second, is this Journey into the West? Is this? And they were like, yeah, and I was just so happy because I'd loved that show as a kid. That was a pinch me moment. That was just like, I love this story. And also, but I mean, other than like Star Trek, there was a show called The Invaders. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember.
Look it up. It's like another 60s kind of like Cold War paranoia sci-fi show with aliens that are slowly taking. It's got kind of echoes of Invasion of the Body Snatchers and stuff like that. But yeah, BBC Two and Channel 4 used to show all kinds of fantastic stuff.
Because BBC Two used to show the Outer Limits, didn't they? So
They did.
Outer Limits.
Yeah.
I never quite clicked with those anthology shows. I don't know why. I think probably just because the quality of the episodes could vary. So it's like when Spielberg tried to kind of rejuvenate that genre with Amazing Stories, which was probably mid to late 80s. Some of them are great. Some of those episodes are great, and some are. No, I did like the Twilight Zone movie though.
Yeah, that was good. So we had a question in chat earlier there saying, were you into Warhammer before you actually started doing the books and stuff and the games?
Now this is where I have to tread carefully because I know how passionate Warhammer fans are.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Okay, and I don't want to annoy anybody. Now I knew about it. The first time I came into contact with Warhammer, I'd started at drama school in Guildford, and they had a little store up in a side street. It wasn't really a store; it was just a shack. It was just this really dark shack that I would walk past occasionally and peer in, and there'd be hairy men looking over the little figures, and I'd be like, "I'm strangely attracted to this, but it's also a little bit intimidating, so I'm not going to go in." And I didn't. And every now and again, I would find myself wandering into a Games Workshop shop, as they were then. I think they're rebranding as Warhammer, and I'd look at the books, and I'd look at when they did audiobooks on CD. I'd look at those, and I'd look at the artwork, because the artwork was always astonishing. The artwork was always amazing. So that was the gateway, because I kind of loved the artwork, but I wouldn't know where to start. And then I'd ask the guy in the shop. They'd start talking, and after 20 minutes, I'd glaze over because I'd just lost. I didn't know. And when I did my first audiobook for Games Workshop, one of the producers there, Matt, fantastic guy, kind of held my hand through the initial few books that I did. I got it completely wrong. I thought like Age of Sigmar and the Old World, as they're calling it now, was the past, and 40K was the same universe but the future. You see what I mean? Because there are similar themes, similar words get used, and he was like, "No, they're completely separate. The Old World and Age of Sigmar are interlinked. 40K is its own separate thing." So that kind of made it easier. Before I did my first book, they gave me like a primer: read this one, read this one, read this one, which helped. But ultimately, in the end, when I did my first book, my knowledge was pretty thin. I knew the basics, but it just grows. And the thing is that I read these for pleasure now. You know, they've got me. They've got me now. And you find yourself having suddenly you've got a favorite faction, or a favorite character, or a favorite this, that, and the other. So, you know, really my exposure to Warhammer has really only been in about the last 6-7 years. But I mean, I've got shelves of books now. Shelves. In fact, hang on, give me a sec. I got one through eBay today. Hang on a sec. There we go. I got that. 3 can't see it. Death World. It's an old,
Cool.
yeah, an old 80s. No, 2006. I think it's basically Warhammer Predator, from what I can gather from reading it. But now I am involved in it. I've got to say I love it, and you find yourself loving certain kinds of stories. I particularly like. I did a series of Space Wolf books, and I love the idea of the Space Wolves. I love that it's essentially, yeah, it's 40k and it's Space Marines, but they're Vikings and they're a little bit mental and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I've done a lot of old world fantasy. They're kind of going back through their back catalogue now. I read the End Times books. We're going back even further now and doing some of the others, and I really like that stuff. I did one recently that I think it's just come out called The Hammers of Ulrich.
Yep.
Just fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. It was, I mean, it's fantastic to get the opportunity to narrate it, but I obviously read the books before I do them for prep, and I just thought, this is just a great book. This is just a fantastic story. So yeah, I'm getting it.
We had another Audible actor on about a year ago, a guy called Chris Tester. I don't know if you've come across
Oh
Chris.
yeah. I think we've sat at Warhammer and ate in the same canteen.
Yeah. How he said that when he found it a bit easier coming into Warhammer without the prior knowledge that a lot of people would have, and he said that he found that easier. Did you find that easier for yourself, like coming into it kind of blind in that aspect?
Definitely. I think if you're a big fan of something, like we were saying, I was a fan of Doctor Who and the Muppets and stuff, when you get invited to work, even tangentially with those companies, you are slightly intimidated because you know how important it is to you. So you don't want to, mess it up. I had no idea how big Warhammer was. I thought it was fairly niche. I didn't really realize that, they had a massive exhibition up in Nottingham. I didn't realize that people come from around the world to go to this exhibition. I didn't realize they had so many stores around the world. So, and that's really good because I think if I'd known that before I started, I'm not saying I would have messed it up, but there would have been more anxiety around it.
Yeah, pressure on yourself.
Yeah. Whereas now I kind of know everybody there and I enjoy it and I get a new book and I think, great, what's this one going to be? And then, we just dive straight into it. And they're also very good. All the producers there that work at Black Library that do the audiobooks, they're so steeped in it, in the lore and the universes, that if you have any issues, if you have any queries, they'll just answer it. There have been some times when I've said, oh, can I do such and such a character in such and such an accent? And they'll go, no, we can't do that because those characters are always this, and we've got to keep it consistent through the books and through the games and various other things. So I've got to say I really enjoy it, and it's always I'm always really glad to do another book for them.
And how did you get into doing the Audible stuff? Because how can you go from puppeteer to narrating books? Was it just a natural transgression? Transgression?
A natural transgression. I'll take a transition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's transgression, but we'll take transgression. Again, it's that thing of, I mean, puppetry kind of died a little bit. There was very little work around, and there were so many puppeteers all kind of gunning for whatever little work there was. There was an element of, I've got to do something. I've got to find another avenue. And by that point, I'd kind of got over my whole don't like being in front of cameras thing. So I'd done a bit of acting for telly and stuff. Not much, but little bits here and there. But I'd always, again, it was that thing of going, well, what fits? That part of your brain, I've got to diversify. So, well, I've always loved radio. I've always loved audio as a medium. And I've had to create all these characters for Henson. We've always had to voice our own characters. So this seems like a natural progression. So I spent 4 or 5 years, every 6 months I would do a massive mail out to any voice agent I could think of with a real, this is what I sound like, blah, 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 nothing. I went to see Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy live They did a live show. This was a few years ago. And the guy who'd written and directed the live show was a guy called Dirk Maggs. And he had done a lot of audio dramas over the years that I'd really liked, not only for Audible, but for the BBC. He'd done like Batman, and Superman, and Judge Dredd, and, you know, fantastic stuff. So I just got cheeky and I wrote him a letter. I think I found him on Facebook and I just sent him a letter, and it just email. And it just so happened, lucky for me, that he was a Muppets fan. So we got chatting about that, and I said, well, you know, if you're ever doing anything, Dirk, I'll make the tea, that kind of thing. And nothing happened. Nothing happened, and that's fine. Every now and again, I'd send another email. Well, mate, I'll go and source the tea and make it. I'll do everything. And then what happened was really weird. I got involved in a project called Dead Air, which was a short film done
Channel
for a company.
4. That was in Channel 4. It was about, like, was it Dead Air?
No, it was a short kind of like proof of concept movie that I did for a guy called Jeff Harmer, who was directing it, and Peter Hearn, who wrote it, for a company called Fraught Productions. Basically, Gremlins on a plane. I found them on Kickstarter, and I'd gone, well, I can't give you any money because I've got no money, but I'm a puppeteer. Are you going to use puppets? And yeah, I got lucky again. They brought me on board, and I was puppet coordinator on that, and lead puppeteer, and I brought in a team of people to help them do it. We did it. I completely I didn't know about this. They managed to get Dirk Maggs to do the sound mix for them, because he'd always wanted to do movies, even though he'd done all the stuff for, you know, BBC and Audible and all these audio dramas. So suddenly there was this other connection between us. After we'd done that, I think it might have been before, actually, just before we started shooting, Jeff, who was the director on it, said, can you come and give a talk about movie creatures at this film festival that he was part of? And I went, yeah, okay. So I went and gave an hour talk about my favourite movie creatures and practical and all this. And just out of the blue, Dirk, who turned out lived fairly local, decided to come watch it. And he kind of introduced himself to me afterwards, and we had a chat, and we got to know each other face to face for the first time. And literally 2 days later, he offered me a little part in an Audible production of an Alien spin-off that he was doing. And I went and did it. We got to know each other. I did another one. He did a production of Unseen Academicals, which is a Terry Pratchett book. He did that, and I went in and did some small parts of that. Then we did another Alien. We did a kind of alternate Alien 3. There was an unused script that they didn't use for the third movie, which involved it's kind of like a Cold War allegory. It's not the one about the wooden planet with the monks. It was a different one, and we did that. And as soon as I got those, suddenly got a voice agent, because suddenly I had those credits, so a voice agent could look at it and go, oh, well, he's done that for Dirk, who's well known in the industry, and Audible, so there must be something there. So again, it got me through the door. But again, even though that happened, it still took me a while to get into video games, because I didn't have any track record. It took my agent about a year of knocking on doors to get me an audition for video games, and then it's just kind of taken off from there. Persistence.
It does seem strange that although, like, your line of work in voice acting is so well covered, when you think about like what you're breaking down there, audiobooks, games, radio, even just voiceovers on the TV. It seems strange that although it's one line of work, that it's completely segregated out. You would think that, you know, you're a guy, you're doing a voiceover, it should be applicable to everything without you having to worry about having that background. Obviously, because it's something I've never been involved in, it just feels a bit bizarre. I don't know if that's like an industry thing, maybe, or
I think it is. I don't think it's anything unusual in like the acting industry. I think it probably happens in every industry on some level. As a puppeteer, I always noticed that there was a massive kind of difference between the kind of gap between people that puppeteered on TV and people, you know, for movies, and people who did it in theatre. They were like these two completely separate bubbles that never met. And I was like, I don't understand. Why is this? That shouldn't matter. Yeah. And I do actually remember auditioning for a theatre run in a very prominent puppet theatre up north. I won't say any more. And the guy who was running the audition, who was the I guess the artistic director, just hated me. And I couldn't figure out why until I suddenly wrote, I'm the only guy here who's done movies. I'm the only guy here who's done telly. So he just sees me as this, I don't know, guy who sold out. I don't know, but he wasn't having it. And it was like, okay, that's weird. But there's also the same thing in the voiceover industry. There is a whole group of really talented voiceover artists who only seem to get or do commercials, which is great because they pay really well, but they can't seem to get into video games.
Yeah.
Or people that do video games who can't get into commercials, and it's because they tend to just occupy different parts of the business. In some respects, I think video games and that kind of character stuff is a little bit easier to get into. I'm still working on the commercials. I've done a few. If I ever figure out how to crack it, I'll let you know. But I do find it frustrating because I don't understand why there are these fake walls there.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me.
So I just want to jump on to just before. Are we going to our off topic and then come back to the topic, Casey?
You
Right.
do what you like.
So we usually run a series of questions, and just like a bit of fun, nothing serious. Are you a Beatles fan or do you hate the Beatles like I do?
Oh my God, that's a bit harsh. Am I a Beatles fan at all? I don't hate the Beatles. I think the problem is that I was never really exposed to them. My dad never listened to the Beatles. I grew up in a house with a dad who was like a massive audio nut. So vinyl, reel to reel, cassette, you name it, he had it. But my dad was more eclectic. So, as a kid, you're completely at the mercy of what your parents listen to. Luckily, my dad had really good taste in music, so it was fine because I didn't have an older brother to, help me out. And my dad was into Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and Eric Clapton and Mike Oldfield and Jean-Michel Jarre and jazz and classical and film scores. So I was just like, as a kid, I was the weird one in the playground because everybody else was listening to ABBA. And I was going, oh, but there's this cue from Star Wars, which is really good. And, didn't help my street cred at school at all. And I've got to say, it's not that I avoided the Beatles. I don't know. Something happened. And it's only recently that I've started listening to them. And I really like what I hear. But I think the thing is that you hear it and you go, well, there's not much in that. That's a bit meh. That's a bit light. That's a bit. But then you have to stop and go, no, wait. Nobody had done this when they were doing it. This was completely, it's like Ozzy just before he died, I think, was giving an interview and he's explaining that they just blew the lid off of everything and made everybody feel like you could do anything. So, long answer to a very small question. I don't love them. I don't hate them. I'm discovering them. Is that okay?
Good answer.
Yeah,
That's a good answer. I appreciate
that. That's a totally fine. Now we do like to hear people's weird food habits. We've had one guest on who likes to have a quaver sandwich with mayonnaise or salad cream on it.
Yes, salad cream.
Oh, wow.
Now, I did try that, and it's actually quite nice, but I wouldn't go back to it. Is there any weird food combinations that you like to do yourself?
I'm really struggling to think. I mean, I will admit to walking into Tesco's like 6 months ago and seeing that there were now such things as giant Wotsits and being really excited. Just to be like, oh my God, the 12-year-old inside me is really happy right now. Have you ever done weird food? I used to do that thing for a while. Do you remember penguins? Did you still get those? The chocolate penguins? You do this thing with a hot cup of coffee where you bite the top off diagonally at one end and then the other and use it as a straw. Have you ever done that?
Oh, yeah.
No,
I've done that with a Kit Kat. But
I used to do it with a Kit Kat.
Yeah,
no, I used to do that. I used to do that with penguins because then it melts on your tongue and it's delicious.
I was devastated when I found out that penguins are just bourbon creams with chocolate over them.
Oh, come on, that makes them better.
Oh my God, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Absolutely
A
devastated.
bourbon biscuit on its own isn't great, but you wrap it in chocolate, it just adds another level to it. It's fine.
Yeah, I've never really liked bourbons, the chocolate one. But you're absolutely right.
Penguins. It's the same thing. It's just
a larger version covered in chocolate.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
good.
what
It's
we
hard
do on this
hitting. We're
show.
doing the hard hitting questions now, so this is good.
That was just the warm up about your career in Muppets. These are the hard.
Yeah,
These are
yeah.
the questions that people want to tune in for.
Yeah.
It's important.
So I'm going to follow this up. Obviously, you've mentioned there your 12-year-old you getting excited about the drum. What is your crisp of choice?
Oh man, that's not. What you mean? Like the company that makes it, or the flavour?
Either.
Yeah, I know.
It's got to be salt and vinegar. Just that's what it is for me. Walker's salt and vinegar. Just your basic salt and vinegar. That's it. You can't go wrong.
You
No,
can't be.
that's it.
They did
Don't
do
need any
someone
crinkles
there.
on it. Don't need
Yeah.
crinkles. Don't need any. Just your basic salt and vinegar.
Now, as I also enjoy a basic salt and vinegar, and sometimes I get the bags that are probably share bags, and I'll demolish them to myself because I'm a fat kid. You do need a beverage after those to wash those down. So, what is your beverage of choice to wash down your crisps with?
Oh well, I mean, we're talking grown-up beverages because
Again, anything.
when I was younger, a pint of Guinness was the staple because it was good for you because it had iron in it. Fizzy drinks, I'm firmly in the Dr. Pepper camp.
Oh,
I mean, what is the worst that could happen? With the occasional Coke, because I don't believe in Diet Coke. I think it's an oxymoron. I don't think it exists. I have issues with that.
And lastly, from me, this is something that, in the off-topic stuff, this is something I've been doing in the last week. I was on holiday last week, and I was bored, and I bought a bogle to entertain my family.
Bogle?
Mostly my 6-year-old child, because just wanted to keep his brain engaged. He had chicken pox. I needed to keep his brain on the move.
Oh yeah, okay.
As a git. So I've been doing a daily thing on my Instagram where I post a bogle up. What we decided to do this time around in our show was, much like Top Gear and its star in a reasonably priced car, every guest is getting a bogle. Now, you're not going to be timed.
I can't even remember what bogle is. What is it? Isn't it the same words?
I'll show it. Here we go. So what we've got here is a row of dice with letters. Now,
God,
what I need you to do, having a look at that, is try and form a word for me. Now, you have to use dice that connect. So, like in this instance, TOE, toe. You can't use toe, but have a look at that and give me a word.
I'm dyslexic, and some of those words letters are sideways and upside down. You've done this on purpose. When you say connect,
we'll be fair. We'll be fair, and we won't let you do it. Then
no. You've said no. I want to do this now. You can't. You can't do this to me. And then hang on. So they've got to be vertical or.
So you can. So basically, if you've got one dice here, you can go diagonal to it, up and down to it, or left and right to it.
Oh.
I didn't check this one first, Dunk. I apologise.
He did say he was dyslexic and had ADHD at the start of the show when you were too busy putting your hands through your turkey hair. And I was like, you've heard that?
I can't. Top. That doesn't work. Toe. I've got toe. That's
toe.
it.
We'll take toe. I apologise. I am a twat.
I must say, your face is going as red as your t-shirt right now, Casey.
Oh, mate, but I am sweating. You know what?
It's so hot here.
No, it's not just from the heat. It's from the heat.
So,
I apologise.
So when you're not reading Warhammer books and you're not doing audible books, what do you like to do yourself to relax in your downtime?
I do mostly read. I mean, I went through a phase with video games back in the late 90s, early noughties. I was obsessed sort of when the PS1 came out. And I kind of just burnt through all the Tomb Raider and Resident Evil games. But, you know, adulthood, kids, I did have a PS2 for a while. But I ended up selling it because I just never used it. So read it. I do read and music. I've got to say, because I can have music on in the background when I'm, working or doing things. I just finished reading. I'm prepping one actually for Warhammer at the moment, but just before that, I just finished one which I've been wanting to read for years called Weave World by Clive Barker. Really good. Clive Barker does like a fantasy, Narnia, Lord of the Ringsy kind of thing, but really good. However, when it comes to video games, my daughter has spent the last 2 years playing Red Dead Redemption. And I've just started Red Dead Redemption 2, sorry. And I've just started, and I am now super addicted.
It's the best game I have ever played. It's an absolute work of art. There's no other way about it.
I don't understand how they did it, because first of all, I am shit at video games. I just don't, weirdly, for a puppeteer, I don't have the coordination. I'm looking, where's the X, but it kind of guides you through that process of learning how the inventory works and where you can store things and what you need. Does it nice and slowly. The initial missions are fairly, they're exciting, but they're not overwhelming. And also, I just don't understand how they did it, in the sense that my daughter played the Last of Us remastered games. They remastered them for the PS5 and PC, and they look great, obviously, because they've been remastered. But Red Dead Redemption is a PS4 game, right?
Yeah.
But it still looks astonishing. I
think it's because they used a specific engine when they were designing it. Like Rockstar games they're kind of like, the way I look at Rockstar games, they're kind of like George Lucas, but for computer games. Like ever since Grand Theft Auto, the top-down version from the PS1, they've just, every time they put out a title, it's just get better and better and better. Like I'm a big fan of Elden Ring, so I did start playing Red Dead Redemption 2, and then I get so distracted fishing in the game that I actually forgot what I was doing in the game.
Well, I'm a bit like that, because I was in a game called Baldur's Gate. I did some stuff for that, and I figured I'd better start. I should play this. I'm in it, and people seem to like it. But I didn't realise I was going to need to understand spreadsheets and various other things. And they're so detailed and complicated. I lost it a little bit and got ready for it. And again, you look at Red Dead Redemption 2 and you go, they've somehow managed to refine it so these inventories, which you do have, aren't too cluttered and overpowering, and they're easy to manage, and you can kind of understand what you've got and how to access it. It's amazing. I mean, and the fact that it's such an open world game that you can just go, do you know what? I'm not going to go and help them rob that bank. I'm going to go hunting this afternoon. I just feel like going and maybe have a camp. Maybe we sleep out tonight and take some photographs of the views. And you do. I find myself taking pictures. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
It is immense, and it's something that I recommend to people who don't dabble with computer games. If they say, what is the best game I can get into? Straight away, RDR2. I played the first one, played it to absolute death. And then when this one came out, it took me ages to complete it, but solely because I accidentally saw a spoiler of the story, and it got to the point where I was like, I can't do this now. I got so invested in the character that.
And isn't there something like 20 hours of play after the event at the end of the game?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm just astonished by it. I mean, and I was kind of trying to work it out the other day. I kind of went on a really stupid YouTube deep dive, because I was trying to figure out how big the map was in real world terms. And obviously in real world terms, it's about, I think they said it's like 24 square miles or something like that. And it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's hundreds of square miles, because you've got the different environments. You've got the snow, you've got the desert, you've got the swamp areas and stuff. And I don't know, there's some amazing sleight of hand that they've done with the creation of the map that makes you feel like you're traveling these huge distances, and you're not really. It's really clever. It's really clever.
What's insane is, after you complete the main, like you're talking about, the extra 20 hours, the map expands, and you get all of the first game map then added to it, and you just look at
about this.
Whoa! Just they are proper storytellers of an old school sense, and it's perfection. I think a lot of Hollywood misses out on nowadays.
Well, I sit and I play it with my daughter, and what's so good about these games, and I include The Last of Us 1 and 2 in that, is that I had just as much fun watching her play it as I did, playing it myself, because the story is compelling.
Yeah.
And you kind of look at something like the TV show and go, yeah, oh, it's obvious that they would do this as a TV show. And my daughter and I are always going, why haven't they done a Red Dead? I mean, it's less linear than The Last of Us, but you could certainly boil the main story down into a really compelling narrative.
Yes.
I'm sure they've tried. I'm sure they're trying. But I would be there. I love westerns anyway, so I'd be there in a heartbeat. Yeah, but I mean, it's really interesting, because I think games like Red Dead are really important, because my daughter is just about to start college, um, and she wants to be involved in the entertainment industry in some way. She's kind of grown up with me doing it. So, but she looked at me one day and she went, "I don't think I want to be an actor, Dad," which is a shame because she's really good. I don't want to be an actor because I want to have more control over my life. And I was like, yeah, that's actually really quite smart. But now she's completely engrossed in the idea of storytelling within video games and how to tell stories in a non-linear way that are still satisfying. And that's all from playing The Last of Us and Red Dead. So, I mean, the sky's the limit with these things, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Rockstar Games do with Grand Theft Auto 6 whenever it gets released, because that's going to be like absolutely humongous.
I've
So,
never played any of those. I've never played any of those, so that's probably on the list.
so I'm going to take you back a minute, because this is something I want to sort of jump back in before we go back on topic. But obviously, you've mentioned Wukong, your early love for kung fu films. I bloody love a kung fu film. What's your favorite kung fu film?
Oh God,
It's hard because there's so many, isn't
it
there?
is hard, but I've got to go with, because we were talking earlier. This kind of goes back to when we were talking about all the cool stuff that BBC Two and Channel 4 used to show. When I was much younger, I had a little black and white TV in my room when we finally got one, and I used to switch it on late at night and duvet over so Mum, Dad wouldn't come knocking on the door. And Channel 4 used to, I think they showed a season of martial arts movies.
Yeah.
I was kind of aware of it at the time, but they showed this one movie which I adore now, and it's insane. It's not Jackie Chan, it's not Jet Li, it's not any of the famous ones. It is a famous Chinese action director called, I hope I'm saying this right, Choi Hark. It's whatever. And he did a film called Zoo, Legends of the Magic Mountain.
Okay.
Something like that. It's called Zoo, Legends of the Magic Mountain, I'm pretty sure. And I was watching it at night, and it's this like massively complicated fantasy martial arts movie. It's the closest thing you will ever get to the Spirit of Monkey, the TV show, but done on a big budget on a big screen. And it ends up one of the big battles at the end. The hero wizard guy and the villain are both fighting each other on flying concrete elephants. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. And it just hit that. I was like, what am I watching? And then I started, when I was a little bit older, they started releasing them on DVD. There was a DVD imprint called, I think, Hong Kong Legends, and they released loads. And they had this guy, I remember him called Bay Logan, who did all the commentaries and would tell you the history of this and that. And I, watched all the police story movies, all the, so I'm going to go with Zoo, Warriors of the Magic Mountain, simply because that was the one that kind of kicked my love of that off. And there's another one that I really love called Close Encounters of the Spooky Kind. I think that's the Western title.
Yeah.
Sammo Hung. And
Yeah.
it's basically it's a supernatural comedy. And I think, and I could be wrong, it was a massive influence on Sam Raimi for The Evil Dead. And if you go and watch it and you kind of see the weird angles and the speed that things fly by and the fact that it's a mixture of like horror and silliness and action, you kind of go, yeah, he just basically copied that. That's not a bad thing. But,
What would yours be, Casey?
I'm.
It's tough, man, isn't it? Because they're all great. I mean,
I think, I have to go back to some of the classics like the Five Deadly Venoms and 36 Chambers of Wu-Tang and stuff like that. I know they're like it's cliche, but and again, as ADHD Minis has said in the chat there, Drunken Master was one of the first ones I really watched, and that is outstanding. Even to this day, I dabble with it, and you know, there's just so many old school classics that I do. As much as I love the Bruce Lees and the Jet Lees and the Jackie Chans, there are more better ones when you sort of shy away from them and just think, shed the names, go to the purest of it, and that's why I think like 36 Chambers is.
I never did Bruce Lee either. Weirdly, I think humour is a big thing for me. So, and some of them could be a little bit dry, and a little bit, you know. So when they brought humour in, when Jackie Chan realised he wasn't really a leading man in that sense, he was more like a Buster Keaton kind of character. Then suddenly I was more interested in what he was doing. What was I watched another one.
One of my favourite ones that's actually a Jackie Chan film is The Big Brawl.
The what? Sorry?
The Big Brawl.
Big Brawl.
Oh yes.
Because I remember watching it as a young child, and I loved the 20s, the 30s, and 40s vibe. It was all that kind of like street fighting, and I loved that film because it was like him fighting basically white guys and maybe a couple of guys. But it was,
there's still some amazing movies out there. I mean, I would recommend, if you'd like silly ones, have you ever seen Shaolin Soccer?
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Oh yeah.
Right, come on, that's a fantastic movie. Watch the original cut, not the Western cut, because it cuts too much out. And one of my favourite ones, it's not really one of my favourite ones, but I watched one of the IP Man movies recently.
Yeah, they were really good.
Are you supposed to say IP? Yeah. But one of them, this made me laugh so much. I think it was maybe 4. I don't know how many they've done. Was supposed to take place, and if you've watched them, you'll know this. It was supposed to take place in San Francisco in the 50s or something, and it was clearly shot in the Wirral in the UK. And they've just like done up this 70s comprehensive school to try and look like an American school, and they're driving around in American buses in San Francisco, driving past churches. Medieval churches, and you're like, okay. I love stuff like that. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's quality. Sorry, you're right there.
Just to jump back into
Warhammer
stuff. Right, so when you did the Fieldrum book, how did you did you listen to the previous Fieldrum narrations to get the voice for the character? How did you get into the zone for that character?
The Fulgrim one was, I think, probably the most nervous I've been for any of those books, just because it was tying in with this, you know, major character in the lore coming back.
Yeah.
Plus stuff that was happening with the gaming side. Yes, I did a lot of reading, and the producer who was producing it sent me a lot of stuff to listen to and read up, just so that I was clear on who he was, where he came from, what his history was, where he fitted into the larger picture. The interesting thing with doing voices for these characters is that they try and keep things like accents constant. So if you're doing the old world stuff, Bretonians are probably going to be French. Dwarves are probably going to be Scottish or Northern or something like that. We just try and keep them in that. So it's an easy thing. Oh, he's talking in that accent, it must be that character. Fulgrim, we kind of did our own thing because he'd gone away for such a long time, and he changed, and he wasn't the character that he was when you last saw him, that you kind of felt like you had a bit more freedom.
Right.
And I think they did actually treat my voice slightly for him as well, that just to give it a slightly otherworldly sense to it as well, that would elevate him above, you know, everybody else. But I was nervous, and it's, you know, when you're given that responsibility, we've got this big character coming back, this is the first book you're doing it is like, okay. I hope I don't mess this up. But yeah, again, I really enjoyed that book. I know it's controversial. Go and read some of the reviews, and you just go, and it's one of those things where you read. I did another book for another company recently, and you just read the reviews on Audible, there's no pleasing everybody. Do you know what I
No.
mean? The reviews will be excellent, 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 boring, tedious, excellent, dire, and you just go, okay, well, it's completely subjective. But generally speaking, it's been really well received, and I'm really pleased with the way it turned out because it was a pretty dense book as well.
A Up Paint has just says he hopefully doesn't think that you went all method when you were doing Pilgrim. Are you a method actor?
Nah, methods for losers. Method is for people with no imagination.
Daniel Day-Lewis, you've just been
Ah,
outed.
yeah.
Yeah, Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, it makes sense saying it.
Yeah, I'm throwing the glove down on the floor. No, you can't. I mean, you have a very very condensed time period when you're doing an audiobook. You don't really often have much time to prepare. I did with that one, so that was great. And you do try and embody certain aspects of the character, and you try and pinpoint those. But because you're working in audio again, you've got to be really clear. What is the essence of this character? What should he sound like? What makes him different from everybody else? And just try and latch on to that, so that when the audience is listening, they don't think it's somebody else. They can just tell by the tone that it's Fulgrim. I mean, I'm not, dumping on method actors. There are certain parts where you've got to do the research and you've got to do that kind of stuff. But most of the time, I'm really sorry to it's not magic. We are just making it up as we go along. You play the truth of the scene. That's what it is. You play what's the truth in the scene. You play that, then you'll be fine. And it's an interesting thing about voice actors. I get a lot of emails from people saying, what kind of microphone should I get? What kind of this, that, and the other? What should I invest my time in? And, you need a microphone and you need, decent recording gear and stuff like that. But I always say acting classes. It's really important. And it's usually the last thing people think about, which I find bizarre, because everything's got to come through the tone of your voice. And if you haven't got any acting chops, or you struggle with that, then you're going to find it really, really difficult. So if you're out there and you're listening and you want to be a voice actor, one of the first things you should do is just find a local acting class or an Amdram group, anything that gets you in a room with other people mucking about and playing scenes and stuff.
And are you surprised at how much Audible books has exploded over the last 10, 15 years? Because it seems to have came from absolute nowhere. Is it because we're maybe getting lazy as readers and we just want somebody to read to us when we're driving or when we're going to sleep?
I don't know. I mean, audiobooks have always been around. I mean, back in the day, I had one of the first audiobooks I ever owned was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy back in the early 80s, I would have guessed. And Stephen Moore, who was an actor who played Marvin, the paranoid android in the TV show and the radio show, did it. And I don't think you can get those anymore. I've still got the cassette somewhere. So audiobooks were there if you wanted them, but they were usually abridged, because otherwise you're going to have 28 cassettes or 37 CDs, and that's not really acceptable. I think there's always been a hunger for it. I like to listen to audiobooks when I'm driving, especially long distance, because it just keeps me alert. And I'm a big podcast guy. I think all that's happened is the delivery system has changed so radically that now you don't need to worry about CDs. You don't need to worry about the package arriving in 10 days on your front door. I once ordered the entire Lord of the Rings radio series on cassette from the BBC shop. I remember going to the post office, getting postal orders, because they did it with postal, and then waiting 30 days before they arrived. It's nuts. Now I can just, pick my phone up and I've got, Werner Herzog. Okay. And I listen to him. And I just think that's all that's really changed. I think the hunger has always been there. And certainly COVID, when that hit and people were just like, oh my God, I've got to fill my day with something, there was a boost there. I think during COVID, Black Library and especially the audiobook division pretty much pulled in the most money it ever did at that point, because people just wanted content. And I just think now, it's just so easy. You carry around this music and movie library in your pocket. It's so easy to get stuff. I mean, it's both a blessing and a curse. There's a part of me which kind of misses it. I kind of miss going to Tower Records at Piccadilly and just Well, I wonder what they've got. I wonder if they've got anything interesting. Oh my God, they've got this. I kind of missed that. But at the same time, I can go online and find something really obscure and probably get access to it pretty easily. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean,
Swings and roundabouts.
I missed going to the record shop and
Oh,
picking up a CD or a cassette tape, but I don't miss trying to decide what two CDs.
oh, you cut out. You
You
cut
dropped
out.
it, mate.
I do miss going to the like Virgin or HMV to pick like a
Mm,
CD or a cassette, but I don't miss having to pick what 2 or 3 CDs I have to take with me for my cassette player and the 30,000 batteries, and
Yeah.
making sure you buy a new CD player with a 5 second skip jump. So if you end up getting bumped by somebody, your CD doesn't jump all over the place. I don't miss that.
I don't miss that either. I remember, I think we spoke earlier about that tour of Romeo and Juliet that I did in North Wales. It was so grim and it was so dark. It was the winter. I travelled up there and I had a separate case full of CDs for my CD player, my little, because I wasn't traveling. And I also I'd invested, I'd had a job and had a bit of money. I bought a little CRT TV, little portable one with an inbuilt VHS player.
Oh
And
yeah.
I took some DS9 VHSs with me because I wanted something to do in the evenings because some of the places we were, there were no pubs, there was no nothing. So I guess I'm going to be watching DS9 tonight. And now I don't need to do that. I've got access to everything everywhere, which on the surface of it feels like a really good thing, but somehow annoys me at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah,
I
because you
don't know
sit
why
there
that is.
scrolling for hours, can't find anything to watch, and you just get the hump.
Right?
It's
What
worse.
is that? It's choice paralysis, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
So when you're doing like a book or a character that people have, like other people have done, like Jonathan Keeble or anybody else, do,
Cable? Yeah.
do you ever get people going, no, that's not how Jonathan did the voice,
Oh
like
yeah.
you're not doing it right?
Oh
And
yeah.
how annoying is that?
I don't worry about it. I think if I'd done this when I was much younger, I would have been like, oh my God, they don't like me. Well, what am I going to do? It doesn't bother me because for every one person that says, I wish Keeble had done this one, or I wish somebody else had done this one, I wish Longworth had done this one, there's somebody who really likes the fact that I did it. So it's like, it's absolutely fine. I mean, Keeble is a legend.
Yeah.
I dream to reach the heights that Keeble has. Yeah, I don't worry about it in terms of voices and stuff like that. I do what I do. I mean, there's stuff that I've done that I don't like in retrospect that I've listened to and gone, oh, I wish I hadn't made that decision or we hadn't made that decision. But at the same time, you've got to go, yeah, I've got to let that go. Do you know what I mean? All you can do is the best you can do on that day. And
Yeah.
then people will either like it or they won't. Do you know what I mean? But unfortunately, we live in a world where everybody has, unfortunately, it's great that everybody has a say. But gone are the days when you can just like or not like something. You either like something or think everybody that was involved in it should be shot. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
a weird world that we live in. And so I find it best to just not worry about it.
And just what my last question about audiobooks, how long does it take you to actually do a full audible book? Because obviously we get maybe a 12-hour story off you. How long does that take for a 12-hour book to be done realistically?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the book. I mean, I think on average, we aim to get between. I mean, everybody's different. Like this is the different audiobook narrators work at different paces. I think Keeble just sits there and the book comes out and it's done in like 10 seconds. He's been doing it so long now. It's just like there it is, and it's perfect. I don't know how he does it. I think for me, we try to get. I like to try and get at least 80 pages plus a day. And that usually works out at about 3.5 hours per day once it's edited down and you've taken out all the mistakes and stuff. So your average book that is, say, I don't know, 12, 13 hours, something like that, maybe more, 4, 5 days, depending on the book. I'm about to do one at the end of the month, but I've only got 3 days to do that one because it's a really short one. And I've been reading it through and going, yeah, we can breeze through this one in 3 days. It's really simple. And other ones I've done, which we've had to split it into 2 blocks of 3 because it's going to take at least 6 days because it's quite dense and there's a lot going on. And you might go at a slightly slower pace with that one, just to make sure you're hitting the specific notes that you need to hit. So yeah, I mean, I would say on average 4 to 5 days for an average book, and that's going in at 9, starting recording at 9:30, having maybe 10-15 minutes in the morning to just have a break, then working through to 1, having an hour lunch, starting again at 2, working through to about 5:30, 6 o'clock. So I mean, it's a long day. It is, and some people I know don't do it because it's that kind of long day, and you are exhausted. I mean, there are some books by day 3 you're just like, I'm done. I don't want to read anything else.
And just one other thing, because there's more and more Audible books now that are having more than one voice actor or voice talent on it. Do you prefer doing them so you can bounce off the person, or do you prefer doing it all yourself?
Yeah, this is a complicated one, isn't it? I mean, they call them hybrid audiobooks or something like that. I've been involved in 1 or 2 where they have a narrator, and then they have, I mean, it's essentially the book. They have a narrator, but then have different actors doing the different voices.
Yeah,
you're not in there with the same
with
the actors at the same. You're still doing all of your stuff separately. They've also doing things now when they do that, but they also have music and sound effects and stuff closer to an audio drama. Now, and this is just me personally, I don't like those as much. I've heard some that are more successful than others. I like a straight delineation between this is a guy reading me an audiobook, this is a full cast audio presentation drama with music and sound effects. I don't know why. Maybe I've just not heard enough of these other ones yet, but I get a bit like, it's kind of, it doesn't quite know what it is. Is it an audiobook or is it an audio drama? I mean, I think there's an age thing here as well. I think a lot of younger people honestly don't know what a radio play is or an audio drama.
Yeah.
And you see it in some of the reviews. You go, I bought this thinking it was an audiobook, but it's just a bunch of actors and sound effects. And you go, radio play. But they've never heard one because they've not been exposed to it. And why would they? Because nobody in their household listens to the radio anymore, at least not the way they did when I was a kid. So I think there's a lot of us that really want to try and protect that. We love the idea of audio dramas, and there are loads out there. There's loads of podcasts now, like scripted podcasts and stuff. So get out there and listen to some. There's some fantastic ones out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was actually going to ask you about the audio drama stuff there, and I think you've answered my question, so I won't do that. But that's the joy of this show. Like, we let you chat and you answer half the questions we've got. And
I like this. There's a question down the bottom here. How can you possibly know how to react to a person when you can't hear them?
Yeah,
that's a really good point. I mean, and that is who said that? Painting. And the answer is you don't. You when you're in that kind of situation, when you're in a video game or a drama where you're doing everything separately, or an animation, for instance, you are completely in the hands of the director, and you trust that the director knows what he wants and what he's going to get. So he'll tell you, I need that a bit quieter, I need it a bit slower, I need it a bit more angry, or whatever. But you do usually end up with video games and animations recording it like 3 or 4 different ways. And then when they put it all together, they can, that response goes a bit better with that response. But as most actors will tell you, we much prefer being in the room at the same time. But sometimes it's just impossible to get us all in the same room at the same time. Yeah. A lot of the Big Finish stuff I do, all Doctor Who stuff, we are all in a room together. So that's brilliant. And that's really the ideal way to do it.
Yeah. He also asked prior to that one, do you ever find it hard to recall a voice you've previously done?
Oh, yeah. No, awful. You really have to, again, trust the people you're working with. I've been working on a video game recently, and I thought it had gone away. It was one of those games that we'd done a little bit of stuff. We'd done some trailers, we'd done some testing, and then I'd not heard anything for a long, long time. And then suddenly it's like, bang, we're doing it. You're booked for these sessions, and I'm like, okay. And I'm in the room, and they're going, it's this character that you did, and I'm going, the first recording I did on this character was 5 years ago. I've got no idea. But they'll always have a sample, and they'll play it to you, and you'll listen. They go, oh yeah, I'll remember it. But they also get it wrong. I did a video game recently, and they were like, you've done this before. I went, okay, I can't remember, but fantastic. Play me the sample. They played me the sample. Wasn't me. It was a completely different actor. And it was just like, they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, no, that's not me. And then they were in a crunch. There was no time. There was no money. They had to make a decision. Can you mimic this voice or are we in trouble? And luckily or unluckily for the other actor, I could mimic it pretty well. So they went, okay, fine, you're doing it. And I feel guilty, obviously, because the other actor, I lost that job because they messed up.
Yeah.
But this stuff happens, and it's just like,
Yeah,
I forget them all the time.
Can it might have happened to you? Like, with doing the voice acting, are you good at impressions then? Obviously, your Herzog is lit.
Thank you. I've never done that publicly. That's interesting. I'm actually not. I don't really do impressions. There was some of the actors that I admired the most when I was a kid, and I thought I wanted to do voice work and puppetry and stuff like that. They weren't called, some of the actors I really liked, they weren't called impressionists, they were called mimics. And they would play like raconteurs, and you would have people like Peter Sellers, and you would have people like Peter Ustinov, two Peters, who would sit on Parkinson, that old chat show, and tell a story about their life and then inhabit the role of each of the characters. Now, they weren't impressions, but they were mimicking certain types of character. And I think that's probably closer to what I do. Because of the certain tone of my voice, there are certain characters that I can do pretty well, but I would never be asked to. Why would I? But I've worked with impressionists. I got to work with John Coleshaw on something quite recently. And, just hearing him do it was just like, and skipping from character to character, I was just like, I don't know how he does it. I don't know. It's like he's got a different voice box for each character. So no, I would think I would class myself more as a mimic.
Cool. I think something for me, and this is something I've done recently. I've read his autobiography, and then recently I started listening to bits of it. But Brian Blessed, as a voice, is on a different planet to anyone else. As like a voice actor, is there anyone out there that you sort of listen to and think, right, how can I attack certain I don't know, if you've got like a page of dialogue and you sort of read it and you're like, how can I attack the emotions of certain bits? Is there any other actors that you sort of look out there and think, he's great for rage, he's great for pure emotion and sadness and other little bits, and sort of look at, maybe lean and sort of study them a little bit?
I mean, you study from everybody, really. I mean, you always have your favorite actors. I mean, and very often they're not ones that people would, kind of assume that you're fans of. I like a lot of the old 50s, 60s cartoon voiceover actors like Mel Blanc, simply because they had such an astonishing range of character voices right across the board, and so much energy and attack to everything that they brought. Nothing that he ever did was dull or boring. I mean, it's difficult with those cartoons. And there's loads of American voice actors now, all whose names I've completely blanked on at the moment, but look them up. That are constant. Hank Azaria, for instance, he's been on The Simpsons for years. I really admire, because at a point where I was trying to figure out how I was going to do this, where do the voices come from? Where do you mine for those characters? I saw him give an interview where he said every character he does is just a bad impression of another actor, or a bad impression of and I was like, that's brilliant, because they don't need to know who it is. As far as they're concerned, you've just created an amazing new character. I don't know. There are certain actors that a lot of the stuff that I've been doing recently, or auditioning for, certainly has been much more realistic. And there are a lot of actors out there that I kind of wish I could find an easier way into making it sound really gritty and really real. I mean, Charles Dance has got this amazing kind of laconic. If you actually sit and listen to him speak, there's very little emotion there, really. It's actually quite flat. But there's everything behind it as well. I mean, it's really quite amazing, and I don't know how he does it. In terms of actors that bring rage, I think Tom Hardy's amazing.
Aye.
But he could also do sensitivity. I saw him in a film called Lock, which is an amazing movie, which is him just sitting in a car for an hour and a half talking and his life falls apart. It's literally just him in a car for an hour and a half talking to his friends on his Bluetooth phone. It sounds boring and like nothing happens, but everything happens. He's amazing in it because it's a really small, nuanced performance and not something I would expect from him.
Tom Hardy is probably one of my favourite actors just now. Like, I've watched Mobland, and he's probably the only person who you could actually meet. And the way he speaks to people, there's a malice and a threat behind it, but he's not actually physically threatening them. But it's just the words and the tone that he uses is just. I would just give him stuff and give him information because it's a nice, polite way, but there's a malice under it.
Yeah, I think I've played a lot of bad guys in video games, and the ones that I particularly like to play are the ones that don't scream and shout. You do get asked to do that a lot, and of course that's fine. But for me, the ones that are always the most threatening are the ones that are the calmest and the coolest and the most calculated and unbothered by everything. And as you say, it's there. The implication of it is there. You know, you just know that at any moment they could explode, but you don't know when it's going to happen. Those are my favorite. Those are the most nuanced. But I don't know, favourite actors. I've got so many. I mean, Ian McKellen's a star. I think Cate Blanchett is incredibly underrated as an actress. I think she's amazing. I mean, I could go on all day.
I think as well, probably one of the ones that is probably he's only known for like Star Wars, but Mark Hamill, like the amount of things that he's voiced in his time. People don't realise how much stuff that he's actually done as well. And they always just think him as Luke Skywalker. Maybe that's why he did like the Batman animated series and a lot of other things, was because he was pigeonholed as Luke Skywalker. He maybe found it difficult to do like other work, so maybe going into voice acting was maybe better for him.
I think it was. I mean, clearly it was an amazing fit for him because he is really good at it. But I also think there's a thing to be said sometimes that actors maybe aren't at the height of their powers at a certain point in their career. And I think he's matured into something really interesting. And I think he's much more interesting as an actor now than he was when he was, this isn't, dumping on Star Wars at all, but playing the blonde, handsome, young, naive kid that he was in those movies. He's got a weight to him now. I mean, I remember talking about another actor, for instance, Denzel Washington, watching a lot of movies of his when he was much younger and being thoroughly unimpressed and just going, "You're fine, but you're a bit boring." But now I watch him in things and go, "Okay, something's happened. You've landed." In yourself, or something's happened and you're much more confident and centered and interesting to watch now. I mean, he clearly found what was right for him at the time, which was voice acting, and he made an amazing career out of doing it. And now there's an interesting thing with him, is that he's a little bit mad. There's a little bit of crazy in there which never really came across in the Star Wars movies, and then obviously his career as a screen actor dipped after that. But as he's been interviewed over the years, I think people have gone, actually, there's a little bit of eccentric in there, and I think that's the kind of stuff he's going to get to play now, which is amazing. And I think Harrison Ford is a fantastic actor. I know a lot of people wouldn't kind of automatically go, he's amazing, but I'm like, go and watch The Fugitive. He's amazing in that movie. He's really good.
Watch What Lies Beneath. He's fucking epic in that.
I haven't seen that. Is that the Zemeckis one?
It's the one where
or something. I can't remember.
It's the one where it's the one where he's been haunted by a student.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I don't. Yeah. Okay. It's on the list.
Because you don't usually see him playing a bad character, like a baddie in it, and I think it kind of showed how good he is. I know we watched like a few of the Tom Clancy ones where he played Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean, but seeing him playing somebody that isn't a good guy, and I really like What Lies Beneath. It's one of my favourite films of his.
Right.
And not bad for a carpenter. Do you know what I mean?
I know. Right, just being in the right place at the right time. in the office doing the bookshelves or whatever it was. Can you come in and read for this science fiction movie? We need somebody.
And apparently it was Alec Guinness that says, "There's your Han Solo there." That's
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, because they had everybody at the time reading for Han Solo. They had Tom Selleck, Kurt Russell, all the big names at that time, and George Lucas was even Ron Howard read for Han Solo.
Howard.
But
I can't see that, but okay.
yeah, but nobody was getting that vibe, and George Lucas was notorious for not wanting to reuse the same actors in previous, like, in other films, because
That makes sense.
he was a bit part in American Graffiti, and he didn't want to use him, and it was only like Sir Alec Guinness that went, "That's your guy there, like, he is Han Solo," and then that was it. Everything else was kind of like, as he says in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, he can fly a plane, but he can't land it. Like, he can't land a plane in real life. How many planes has he crashed in real life?
That's true. There was that awful CGI plane in the one where he was the president, Air Force One, that he crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
Even in real life, he's crashed like 3 planes in golf courses.
Oh, he does, doesn't he? I forgot about that. That's
He's like, I
amazing.
know,
He
like,
always
World
walks
War
away.
II
He always just walks away.
Yeah, well, he's just too cool for school, isn't he? I think he's amazing. I think he's amazing. He's had an incredible career just doing what he does best. And there are other actors out there that do that aren't really. I don't know if I class them as actors in a way, but they're really good at performing and being in front of a camera and doing a particular thing, and it's charismatic and interesting to watch. And you just go, yeah, I'll watch that guy. I'll watch Jeff Goldbluming everywhere. I'm not sure I understand what he's doing and how and why, but I'll watch it and I know I'll be entertained.
I don't think even he knows what he's doing. I think they just give him a script and go, right, this is roughly what we want you to do. Like, I'm pretty sure The Fly was just him making up words as he went along.
Yeah, just wind him up and let him onto the set. And
like, if you watch that episode of Friends that he's just mental in it.
Is he in an episode of Friends?
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay, another.
But he even did on his Instagram the other day. He did his own take of the Jet 2 holiday voiceover. So he's on his own.
Yeah, somebody sent me that. I don't think he knew what he was doing or why he was there. Somebody just said, "Do this; it'll go viral."
Jeff Goldblum, isn't it? Like you said.
Yeah, just Goldbluming all over the place.
Even when he did those old Gross commercials, I'm pretty sure he probably thought it was some sort of tea drink or something.
Probably.
I forgot he did those.
Yeah, they'd love to come over here and do commercials for things. Rutger Hauer did Guinness for years after Blade Runner. You know what I mean? They were fantastic, and I am sure he got paid an absolute fortune.
Here, look, Mr. Spooner, I would love to have you on longer, but I think time's catching up with us here, and Casey needs to go and wash his hair per the instructions from
Actually, my daughter is sending me text messages saying she wants to talk to me, so I need to go.
Yeah, we would love to have you back on again at some point if you're up for it, because
absolutely.
So much to chat about.
I hope I didn't waffle too much, because I can do that. I can just
we
love it.
We
can talk about Kurt Russell. I want to talk about Kurt Russell because he's massively underrated.
Oh yeah,
and I think he's brilliant. In fact, after I spoke to my daughter, I'm going to go and watch Breakdown. You ever watch Breakdown?
Yeah.
Come on, yeah. Come on.
And Birdcage with his wife Goldie Hawn. That's a good one.
Yeah. But Breakdown's that's the one.
Yeah.
It's the best revenge picture ever.
Right, folks, that's us for this week. We have A Up Painting, who has somehow got to manage to get to the levels of Mr. Spooner next week. Casey, do you have any words of wisdom this week about your turkey here?
I'm going to leave it on this bombshell. I don't know if this is a known fact or not, but just where Mr. Spooner had said that he's going to go off and watch Kurt Russell film, apparently Walt Disney's dying words were Kurt Russell.
What?
Yep. Apparently his last words are Kurt Russell. There you go. No one knows why.
Has Kurt Russell held the pillow over his face or something? Is that what
Totally.
Okay, that's another deep dive on YouTube. Well, it's been a pleasure, guys.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks again for coming on. And folks, we'll see you next week. Remember, Orange Brushes as our sponsors. Love you all. Yep. Bye.
I'll have a haircut by then.